Welcome back. Rejoining us, Joe Vaclavic as well as Matt Bennett. Joe, earlier in this week, even before the Ag Outlook Forum, we saw some pressure on these markets, specifically corn and soybean prices. Is it funds? What was pressuring prices even before the Ag Outlook numbers?
The weather in Argentina has shifted. They started off really dry and they caught some rain, and the forecast looks pretty good. So I think that there was some unknown regarding the crops in Argentina, and I think that the crop potential in the minds of traders has stabilized, at least for the moment. And if this forecast and the rains, they hit for another few weeks, they're probably going to be all right. Maybe they won't be as good as what we had thought preseason or a few months ago, but the losses that you'll see there will be limited. That's one of the factors. You know, with regard to the corn market, we traded spot futures above $5. Maybe a correction after that big rally is healthy and necessary. And maybe it's just a correction for the sake of correction. There was one other item of interest. U.S. ethanol stocks were super high this past week, like highest since COVID lockdown type time frame. So that was of additional concern.
That's interesting. You mentioned Argentina's weather, but Matt, it sounds like it could be too much of a good thing. World Weather actually said this week that the South American soybean regions, Argentina's crop weather will trend too wet in the interior South and some central crop areas during the next 10 days, resulting in actually some flooding. And so I know the markets, the rain is a good thing, but now we're even talking flooding.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you talk too much rain, it doesn't seem like the market will get super excited about it unless it is, of course, during harvest. I mean, we know harvest has moved in that direction. You've got to expect that you're going to see some quality issues if that comes to pass. But, you know, at the same time, we've already seen some of that. It's had a bit of an impact on the market, but as Joe said, you know, essentially a lot of the crops down there, the farther south you get, corn, soybeans in Argentina, you seem to have stabilized what the losses were thought to have been. So, you know, too much rain during the growing season, in my opinion, doesn't always pan out to much higher prices. So I think South American production right now is thought to be very stable. It's thought to be more than ample. And I think the biggest question mark moving forward is what this safrinha crop is going to look like.
Joe, you know, when you look at soybeans, really what I keep hearing is we need to find new demand. Southwest Airlines this week, Bloomberg reporting that Southwest is actually cutting jobs in its sustainable aviation fuel operations, working to sell a renewables company. And so when you look at that news, it seems like we have some of these companies that are abandoning renewable fuels, not investing in renewable fuels. Where else could we see a story in soybeans?
You need a biofuel story, and the lack of policy from the government is the reason, I believe, why you're seeing divestment or lack of investment in that space. You need some hard and fast rules. You need 45Z guidance. You need a lot of different things from the government. And the Trump administration has just been kind of held up on a lot of this. And I think you could continue to see that sort of divestment until you see some hard policy that's going to bring them back to the table.
Matt, real quick before we go, cash cattle trade, we've seen some pressure as of late. Do you think this is just kind of short term, or is there an underlying story here that we need to keep a watch on?
Yeah, I think that there's no doubt that we ran this thing maybe a little bit too hard, too quickly. Obviously, scale back just a little bit. But at the same time, I mean, overall, this long-term story in cattle, it's a bullish one. We know fundamentals are strong. We also know that as cattle come in from Mexico, though, there's no doubt you're going to have plenty of feeders available. So you'll maybe stabilize that somewhat. But it's a long-term bullish fundamental situation. But you are completely at the mercy of, hey, what do the funds want to do? They've held a really long position for quite some time. And if they want to continue to stay long, it's one thing. But if they don't, there's no doubt that there could still be more pressure on the market in the midst of what you would call a bullish situation.
Yeah, it's scary to be at the mercy of the funds, but we've all been there in all of these markets. So it'll be interesting to watch. Joe Vaclavic, Matt Bennett joining us. Thank you so much. We need to take a quick break, and then we're checking in with Machinery Pete for Tractor Tales.